tear, it falls and hits the ground. A tree, it falls without a sound. A bird, it calls and sends you home. A man, he sits in the cold all alone.
Hi, welcome to the Joy of Sunflowers. I'm about to talk to Moria from Mother of Wilde. I hope you enjoy the interview.
I
Uh,
appreciate everything that you're doing for the lost community and getting all of this together. That's really awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, it wasn't something I planned, obviously. Life just happened, and then I was like, well, I need to do something active, and this is what I came up with, so it's like I'm gonna do it.
What's great? Yeah, it's great. I'm excited to share our story and honored that, you reached out. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for being here and coming to speak to me and everyone here. Yeah, so usually we sort of go into you sort of introduce yourself a little bit, and then we go into your story. And then from there I'll sort of ask you probing questions and things like that. Obviously, I'm going to edit the video. And
Sure.
this is just the sort of pre-recorded segment, so people can actually like watch a bit more about you and find out about you, because obviously the lives don't, they're not really going to give us in-depth time, because we're going to be talking about specific subjects and it'll be fairly
Right.
quickish. But if you can't make the lives, that's fine. A lot of speakers can't actually make it, which actually is a good thing, because there's like over 70 speakers, and I feel like
That's
that many people,
crazy.
that many people on one Zoom meeting might be a bit too many. But I figured that would be a safe amount, because then, you know, if they can't make it, it's fine,
Sure.
because there's loads of other people. So um
Yeah. Okay.
but yeah, so I'm hoping this will be like a library, and it will just continually be added to through me interviewing people and people actually sharing their stories. So hopefully that'll happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great idea just because then you get to get so many different perspectives of, loss and how people have journeyed through loss and, birth, all sorts of things. I mean, you're going to cover many, many basics. So I think it'll
Yeah, and it
be
isn't.
good. Go
Mm.
ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say there isn't many safe sort of spaces to go, like as in where you aren't going to get bombarded by like those like fear-mongering kind of titles and stuff. You know, I was kind of trying to create a space where you could come and just sort of watch stories and things like that, and you're not getting those titles that, you know, are really triggering, like on YouTube and things like that. So you're just sort of
Yeah.
watching a story, and yeah, okay, sometimes it's really awful, but I mean, they're still here. They're still
Right.
alive in
Right.
front of you.
Right.
um but yeah, we've had quite a few miracle women, actually. I spoke to one yesterday, and then two other ladies who are walking talking miracles and shouldn't really be here. So
Wow.
it's been pretty
That's
amazing.
amazing.
Mm.
I bet. I bet it's really humbling to hear all these stories too.
Oh yeah, like the one I heard yesterday was full on. She'd spent so much time in the hospital. I was like, wow, like what I went through is like nothing compared to that. but
Yeah.
um
But
but yeah, we
what
still
you
have to
went through is
validate.
still, yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Like, I think it's sometimes really easy for us to compare our
Yeah,
story versus somebody else's story, but losing a child, no matter how you lose them, it's terrible, you know? And so I feel like the layers of grief that you have, and also like the trauma that comes with losing a child, talking about some of these moms that almost lost their life, that just adds to the complexity of the trauma.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah, and for the husbands
so
as well, because like that's because
absolutely.
the husbands don't necessarily feel the trauma as much as we do in terms of the baby
Yeah,
loss. But then
right.
when you almost died, it's like a real reality call for them, and then they have to go through that whole trauma of like, oh, I'm not only losing my child, I'm going to lose my wife. Oh my gosh, like, how am I going to deal with this? And I think that is the marker point, because it's not just her trauma, like in terms of the actual trauma itself, like it's not just her trauma anymore, it becomes his, because he's literally living through the possibility of losing someone, you know, his wife. Because even with child loss, it can be a little bit hard, I think, for some men to kind of connect, because obviously they don't feel the baby, have the baby in them. So scan and they've seen a heartbeat or they've seen something, it can make it really like tricky for them to feel something. Didn't really, because we didn't see anything. The only thing we ever saw was a sack, so he never connected or anything like that. So for him, it's a big deal, but I didn't end up with any trauma, like in terms of hospital trauma, like having to go anywhere and like almost dying or anything like that. It was natural and fine. So yeah, amazing.
I think you're right about the dads. It is amazing what people go through. And I think about the dads specifically, like I know for women and for moms, there's a different type of connection simply because we have the womb and we are the one that is home for baby before baby is born. But I think that, at least for my own personal situation, you know, my husband getting all the texts and calls checking in on me, but no one really checking on him, and our son being born, you know, at 35 weeks, was stillborn. That is a different type of trauma for him, you know, because he still did lose the baby. And I think when people are constantly checking in on dads, losing a baby, especially really late in your pregnancy, and dad's not feeling validated, like they also lost a child, I think that creates complexity there too. You know, I mean, we got experienced early child loss and then had our first baby and then lost another son. So we've experienced early child loss and late child loss. So kind of have seen it on both spectrums, but
yeah. And I mean, I've found as well, people that lose their first child, that hits more prominently in both male and female, regardless of whether it's early or later.
Yeah,
because it's the first.
Yeah.
So you do have those dreams and those hopes and those wishes. Because I said to my husband about it, and he was like, "Oh, I don't think I would have." And I said, "No, no, no." I said, "We did the nursery. We set up the nursery early because we were pregnant, and we were like, well, we're going to have a baby. So we got the nursery ready. We had all these plans. We were thinking about the baby like all the time." I was like, and that was early pregnancy, like just in the first trimester. I was like, so, you know, it would have been awful if we'd lost the baby in the beginning. I was like, so, you know, you don't actually know how you would have gone if we had lost our first son. And I said, and that, you know, that's what people are going through. And he was like, yeah, I guess so. Like, because he hasn't connected, you know, because it was in the first part. And for him, you know, we've had 3 kids, so he just kind of doesn't really see the baby as a possibility until he sees the baby, or like it's out, you know. I mean, he said even with one, he said he's going to be sad a little bit, but he said he doesn't feel like it would really crush him or anything, because he said like he knows it's not a possibility until it's born. Like he knows it can happen. And I said to him, it's a safety mechanism, Del. Like you've protected yourself.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm just like not nice or something. And I'm like, no, honey, this is you trying to like protect yourself. And he was like, I don't know if it's a good thing. And I'm just like, honey, like you have to deal with this too. Like that's crap. Like you can't even feel the emotion you're supposed to feel because you've protected yourself.
Right. I totally agree with that. It's hard. And I want to ask you, are we, do you want us like start, or are we just gonna keep going? Because I can keep chatting with you like this. I don't know if you actually have like a topic. I don't know. I don't want to waste your time. I know it's early
No,
and
like I'm like, should I put this in the interview? Like a lot of the time, this is like
I was gonna say because
it's good stuff though. So I'm like, well,
I know. I'm like, we're gonna keep chatting.
the other day we just completely missed the intro, and I just went straight. We were just chatting because we were both like, me and this lady yesterday. We were both pregnant, and for her, it was her first like living child. Well, we're hoping it's her first living child.
Right.
And yeah, for me it's my sixth pregnancy, but my rainbow, because I had two losses. So I was like, yeah, let's talk about pregnancy and like motherhood. But
How
yeah,
far are you? How far along?
22 weeks, so not
Okay.
very far, but
I mean that's far. We also just had our rainbow baby too. We had her November 28th, so she's almost 3 months old. Pregnancy after loss is very hard.
oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I did
It's
not know that. I was like,
yeah.
oh, I'll be fine as soon as I'm pregnant again.
Ooh, it's hard. I know. But see, that's another safety mechanism though. Exactly that. Like trying to guard your heart and put up walls and I don't know. I talk to a lot of moms because I run the Mother of Wilde ministry, and I talk to a lot of moms that have experienced loss, and they're like, I just want to get pregnant again. I just want to get pregnant. It will help me heal. And I'm like, eh. Like it will bring you joy. It will, but it's not it's not black and white like that. It's just not. Grief is such a gray scale, and it's moving and changing, and depending on seasons of life, or there's so many factors that contribute to how you could be feeling one day versus the next day. And something as simple as going out and hearing your baby's name and your baby not being here, and you seeing a different baby, or seeing babies that could be the same age as your baby out, or just having to go through um the process of going through infertility and then losing a child. That adds so many more layers to it. You expecting, well, we finally got pregnant this time, and we're super excited, we're going to have a healthy baby, and you had been trying for so long, and to have that heartbreak on top of it, and then having to go through the whole process of trying to conceive again, and then even the possibility of never really having a rainbow baby. Think of some of the moms that go through loss multiple times, whether it is early loss in the first trimester, or even second trimester, or even losing a baby in the third trimester with stillbirth right before babies are born. I mean, some of those moms go on to try to conceive again and never can. And so I think about, families that have hoped and, prayed and dreamed for a child, a living baby, and never get that. And that's hard, you know?
Yeah, and I think as well, like when you are Christian, you think, well, I'm gonna have my prayers answered. I'm gonna get the baby. I'm gonna get that rainbow. And it's not necessarily true, because faith doesn't protect us from pain or anguish.
Exactly.
We're not
Yep.
we're not we're not promised to have no suffering. And
Exactly.
sucks.
This carefree life, like I sometimes I feel like that's what people think. I'm going to follow Jesus, and I'm going to live this life that's just so easy, and all these things. And truthfully, it's quite opposite. Like you get convicted about everything, and it's so much more complex than you imagine. Like, it's not exactly what you're saying. It's not this life that's just full of happiness and rainbows all the time. Like it's hard, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always think back to the Pilgrim's Progress book,
Mhm.
because he puts it so eloquently, but in this kind of, story, it's a hard road. Like, it's narrow, it's hard, and you're kind of on your own on a journey to, be a sort of a better person, really. But because Jesus was so perfect, you're like, this is like the most narrow road ever, Although
Yes.
faith alone is what saves you, but actually
Right.
believing and like trying to follow and wanting blessings and things like that, you have to put effort in for. So it's a lot of work. And when you know the right thing,
Right.
it's like, I have to do the right thing, because otherwise I'm going to feel horrible and tortured like all the time. So
Right.
it's
So true.
before I was Christian, sometimes I would do the wrong thing, and I would just be like, so, yeah, people do the wrong thing all the time.
Right.
You kind of get away with it, but when after you become, oh my gosh, I'm so bad, I've got to sort this out. Like, I need to get better at this. Like, what am I
Right.
doing? Like, Jesus gave his life for me, and I'm like doing this, and like, so
Right.
the guilt.
Oh my God. So true. I really think that's how we love our children though. And it's just
Yeah.
kind of it's a parallel of how Jesus loves us and how, our children make mistakes and they make them over and over and over again. And I think often that Jesus just looks at me and he's like, you shouldn't be doing this. You know this. I've told you so many times, but then it's just the mercy and that grace and just the abundance of love that he has for us that it just never stops.
Yeah, exactly. Someone was saying to me that she always looks at God as her parent, as her father, which is something we're sort of told to do, I think. And
Yeah.
she said, she then looks at her son and thinks about how much she loves him, regardless of whether he shouts at her, regardless of whether he's
Yeah.
like angry or anything. And she said, like,
Yeah.
that's what I know, like, that's how I feel God is. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what you basically said. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
lovely.
I love that. Yeah, I think our relationship with God allows us to have a better relationship with other people. Like understanding his love for us and the way that he suffered for us, it allows us to have more compassion for people, more love for people, more grace for people, and kind of meet them where they are. And
Mm,
especially walking a road of losing a child, like
that's what I was about to
I
say that. Yeah, I was about to say that.
yeah,
Like, because before that, I didn't have that
yeah,
understanding, I didn't have that compassion. And then you go through suffering, and then it's like, wow,
yeah,
wow,
yeah.
and it takes going through something like that to really
Mm-hmm.
actually be compassionate, I think.
100%. Yeah. And it draws you closer to Jesus. I mean, again, all this is just my own personal experience because everybody is just very different in terms of loss and their own journey. But for me, when I lost our first baby, and that was back in 2017. I'd have to look. I wrote it down. Grief, losing multiple babies has grief. The
Oh yeah.
dates are just like I have to write it down or I don't remember. But losing our first baby, I remember I was like you, or we had our nursery already. We had tried for, a year and a half. And I remember thinking, Lord, you gave us this baby. Why did you take this baby away? And I remember just sitting Indian style in the nursery and just like crying and pouring out my heart and looking at this empty crib and looking at this nursery that a baby wasn't going to be coming home to. And, um, we had the miscarriage at home. And I just remember it being so extremely painful. And I remember just being very angry with the Lord but then after that, um, really wanting to draw close to him. And so I really credit my babies, and especially Noah, losing Noah so late in pregnancy, and believing that he was gonna, be born days before he was stillborn. He actually drew me closer to the Lord more than anything my life ever has. And so I look at being pregnant with him and his life, as a gift. Like, he drew me closer to the Lord, and because of him, like, that's how my faith has sustained. Before Noah, I had a strong relationship with God, but it wasn't like it is now, because when Noah was born and died, it was like, where do I go from here? This has to be rock bottom. There's nowhere else but up. And again, I cycled right back to those first feelings that I had when we lost our first child. Like, Lord, we already lost one baby, isn't it kind of not a one and done, but we already walked through this suffering. I didn't expect to have to walk through it again, and not in this capacity, like birthing your child and holding your baby that looks like he could be coming home, like looked like a perfectly healthy, 6 pound, 10 ounce baby. I mean, he just looked like he was sleeping. And so, um, for me, I went back to my main kind of finger pointing, Lord, why did you do this to me? I'm angry at you. Like, why did we even conceive? And it wasn't until, truthfully, weeks after that I really had some people speak into me about just keeping the faith and like worshiping the Lord anyways, like people in my family, and just kind of opening up the door to see God for who he is in every season of your life, and including the suffering, like he's either God of all or he's not God at all. And so really choosing to believe that he is still good, and he is still God, and he is still sovereign and mighty and just, and all of these things that I knew God to be. And then a few months after Noah passed, kind of got the stirring in my heart for this ministry. And that's when I came to the realization of, okay, Noah's life, it was important. And even though it was short, look what God can do through it. And so I think moms have that opportunity to embrace the Lord in that capacity, at a place of full surrender and full dependency on the Lord. And I think really he meets you in those dark places where you are broken and hopeless. And, that's who he is.
It's so easy to be like, oh God, why did you do that? But what's been getting me through is saying, God isn't the author of evil. He isn't the author
Absolutely.
of bad things. He
Yes.
allows them to happen.
Yes.
But the bad things happen because of the fall. So those things,
100%.
yeah, those things, he doesn't actually want them to happen. And that's why he takes those horrible things and he makes them into something good and beautiful, and
I'm like so glad that somebody else says that, because I feel like with our ministry, Mother of Wilde, I'm constantly trying to educate moms. Even a mom that I spoke with yesterday, she said, why did God kill my son? And I feel like sometimes we want to place the blame on God because of our relationship that we have with him. It's easy because you have a relationship with him. Kind of like it's easy with a spouse or someone that you're really close with to place the blame on them. Whereas we don't have a relationship with the devil, like we don't have a relationship with Satan. And so it's hard to point blame at him because we don't have that relationship. And exactly what you said, the sin entered the world because of the fall, and death is not from the Lord. And so that's always what I try to educate moms on. Like, do you really think the same God that created life in you took it from you? Like, he creates life. He's not, he could have, healed your baby. He could have healed Noah. He could have breathed right back into Noah, but he didn't. And I may never know the reason why he didn't. Truthfully, I think it was to start a ministry and to pour into other moms the same way that the Lord has poured into me, and like show them hope. But it's hard. It's hard when you lose a baby because you're angry and you want answers to questions that you may never get.
My husband says, we'll probably get them when we go to heaven. And I was like, okay. I don't really think that long, okay.
Yeah, and at that point, will it matter? You will
Yeah.
be like in glory, reunited with the Father, and you will be reunited with your children.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
I won't care.
I love my husband. I'm so glad, he says these things, but at the same time, I'm like, that doesn't help me right now. Because he said, yes, you lost the baby on earth, but the baby's in heaven, so the baby's still there, so it was like, yeah, I know, but it doesn't make it better. It doesn't make
I know, and it doesn't. And then I think about that too, like having the hope that we have for eternity. Like it gives us hope, and it fills us, but some days it just still stinks, like a mom's instinct is to be a nurturer and to attempt to parent a baby that is in heaven. How do you do that? How do you honor a child in this way on earth, knowing that a piece of you is quite literally missing?
Yeah. We did a little thing on the due date for one of our babies, and that was hard, but we sort of just went outside and looked up at the stars, and we all had this like family cuddle, and we all just said, we hope you're okay in heaven. And I thought, I don't want to do like the sad bit every year. And I was like, hey kids, next year, do you want to do a birthday party for the baby? And they were like, yeah, can we do cake as well? And I was like, yeah, we can do that. And I just thought, like, I mean, they're in heaven, but we're still here, and if they were here, we would be having birthdays for them. So I was like, well,
yes,
do that. Because that makes me
I love that idea. I love that. I actually just shared on our ministries page ways to honor your baby that's no longer here, and just ways that our family personally honors Noah. And just like throughout little things in our home, like wearing a necklace with his initial on it, or things that make you think of your baby. And I think it's really important and super healing for families to do that. Not just moms, but moms are the ones that carry the baby, and there's more emotion that comes, I personally think, from moms. But once you start looking at living siblings and the ability to actually have conversations around their sibling that's in heaven, I mean, those are really important topics, and I don't think that's something that mom should just carry.
Yeah, and when you talk to your kids about it, I think they get strengthened. Like they get strengthened in faith, they get strengthened in like dealing with turmoil, dealing with loss. My daughter, she kept saying, I wish the babies hadn't died. Like I wish we could have the babies that are in heaven. And I said, yeah. I said, but I'm pregnant right now. And I said, and if I'd had those other babies, we wouldn't be having grace, because this baby, wouldn't have even been here, because I would have had one of the other ones, and I'd either still be pregnant, or I would have had the baby, and there's no way I would get pregnant again because I'd be breastfeeding. And she was like, oh, okay. And I said, yeah, and we're having grace, we're having a little girl. And she was like, yeah, I want grace. And she went,
Oh,
I still love the babies in heaven, and it was just beautiful. But
so
poor.
it's so pure. It's when you, I mean, I talked to my son Roman about Noah, and when I was pregnant, after Noah passed away, we found out we were pregnant a year after, kind of around his first heavenly birthday. And I remember talking to my son Roman, like, I'm pregnant, we're gonna have your sister. And he was so confused because we talk about Noah, who we can't see, and then we talk about our daughter Eden, who's in my stomach, who you can't see. And I remember he just had so many questions, like even as, a 2.5-year-old, so inquisitive and curious. And like you said, I think it's important to kind of help them understand that suffering happens, and then that, God is so good, but also they get to look at the example that your family sets and that you set, that you are still choosing to honor the Lord in this way. Like, they're going to look back and say, Mom, she lost a baby. And oh my goodness, look at all of these things that Mom went through. And she still praised the Lord. She still worshiped him. She still proclaimed his goodness. Like, that is a miracle in itself, that your children get to see that type of environment and get to be raised in a firm foundation like that, and to me, it makes heaven that more tangible for them.
Yeah.
And for us.
And I mean, people go through these things out of faith. They don't have faith, and they go through these things as well. And I think it can be really hard to have that foundation and that kind of stability, when you feel like there is none, because you don't have you don't have something that's just keeping you grounded, because I think that's what faith does for a lot of people. It keeps you grounded. And when
and
that
they have no hope.
That darkness can really take over if you don't have that hope. And I feel like the hope is, a lot of the time, like in those horrible moments, is like heaven and God, and kind of like holding on to the thought of seeing your baby again, the thought of, that this isn't it. This isn't just this life.
Right.
But it's crazy. And with my kids, I took them into the ultrasound for this pregnancy. So they could see the baby, which helped, I think, like have the understanding of the different baby. This baby's alive, this baby's moving, it's breathing, it's got a heartbeat and all that. I think that really helped. So if anyone has kids and they're, pregnant after a loss, that could be helpful if you take your kids in and they see the scan, because then they can see the baby, they see it moving, they see it's there. So it's not a case of like something they just don't see because they're getting that moment. So
I think that's a good option for us here in the States. They didn't let us do that with Roman, or I would have taken him in to see Eden in this last pregnancy. But what we did is we would just bring the ultrasounds back and we talk about him, and I'd be like, here's her little face, here's her nose. And a lot of the times when we were further along in pregnancy, I would say, all right, say goodnight to Eden. And he would kiss my belly, and, he would sing to her and put his head and just on my belly and hug her. And we tried to make it as easy to understand as possible. But also, pregnancy after losing a child or losing multiple children, it just hits much different, even being as close as I was to the Lord, I was still, pretty anxious and just fearful, thinking, this could happen again. And with the ministry that I was still running, being pregnant, like I felt like the Lord never told me to stop. And so I was still making, you know, um, child loss memorials for babies that had passed away in utero and were the same gestation as Eden in my stomach. And so for me, I felt like I was, just anxious, like, Lord, we conceived, and I don't want to conceive again if something's going to happen again, you know, like she's got to make it here safe. And it's scary. It's a scary road to walk after you lose the baby. It's scary.
Yeah, I started coming up with this event idea just before my second loss. I didn't know I was pregnant again. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this event. I'm gonna do this thing. After my first loss, I was so broken, and I went through this whole 2-month period of just being depressed, and I was like, I have to do something. And so I started sort of thinking about it, and then I had my second loss. But I'd already started messaging women, and I'd already started thinking of like really setting things up. And I was like, okay. And then I got pregnant again. And this one has sort of stuck. So I was like, well, I've already set this up and I have to keep going. And you're right, like every now and then I'll talk to a lady who's lost her child at the point I'm at. And it obviously freaks me out.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't feel safe anyway. I feel very numb when I go in for the like ultrasounds and things, and just sort of lay there and you see the baby and you're like, great. Doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's all the feelings, all the things that you're saying is exactly the season that we just walked through. Like mentally and emotionally, I chill bumps. Like I feel everything that you're saying because that's exactly how I felt, you know, going into those we had high risk appointments. I don't know if you have like a high risk doctor, but we did having a stillborn. And so it's like the exact same thing. I would go and um it would make me feel like at ease until I left the office, you know, because knowing things can change so quickly. You know, like, yes, I see his heartbeat, but before Noah was born still, I was at the hospital 24 hours before and had a completely normal stress test. 24 hours later, his heart stopped. You know, things can change so quickly. And I don't say that to, you know, instill fear into people that are trying to conceive or pregnant after loss. The only way that I really made it through my pregnancy with Eden was just praying, literally. And I don't even know if it was like praying anymore because I was just like conversational with God. Like it wasn't like, dear Jesus, like I just like, all right, Lord, we're going in for this, or like, Lord, you got to help me today. Like it was, I mean, talk to him like a friend. You talk to him like a father. It's like the only way. It was the only way I got through, and still I'm getting through.
Yeah, I mean, I find myself like asking less and less to be able to have this baby like alive and well and stuff, and more just give me the strength. Give me the strength. Like I need some strength today. I need to just get through this. Like, please, give me the strength. Because part of me was like, well, praying for health and wellness doesn't necessarily mean I'll get that. So, but I will get strength if I ask for it. I know that.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I can ask for something I know I'll get.
and too, with you saying that, asking for strength and wellness, and just a healthy baby. I think a lot of the times, like praying that your baby is going to be healed, it doesn't always mean healing here. Could sometimes mean healing eternally. And so I think it's hard pill to swallow.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, some of us never ever get answers, so it kind of sucks. But I think, it's just accepting that it's what happened, and we're still here, and we need to find something to cling to and keep us going so that we can still do the work that we're supposed to do. And I think you are doing that, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I always question myself. I don't question like the Lord's calling and kind of the direction that he had. Because before this, I would always say, what does the Lord want me to do? Like, what is my calling? And then losing Noah and not being able to go back to kind of like, my previous self and my previous job, and just feeling different and feeling like got to find a way to honor him. There must be other families that feel this pain too, that just are in a place of dark grief, you know. I look at this ministry truly, truly as a gift that the Lord has given me through Noah's life, because any other situation I wouldn't be doing something like this. Like you don't just wake up one morning and want to make remembrance prints for parents that have lost babies, like it's not
No,
a common thing.
no, and you don't like wake up and go, I'm going to put on an event for people who have. It's
I
just
know.
not
No.
normal.
No. And if you would have told me that I would have been doing this years ago, I would no. I mean, me, you know.
Yeah.
So, but the Lord can use your story, and even mamas that have lost babies very early, like those stories deserve to be told. And that's what we're trying to do with our ministry and creating these memorial prints for families, is really finding a way to honor these babies that have passed and to give parents and families just a little piece of hope while they're here on earth. And I think that's what makes our memorial prints so special, truly, because, and I think I kind of walked through our ministry with you before, but we print pictures of babies at all gestational ages. And so we've seen the smallest of babies, and, babies that have passed away after being born, all different types of loss. And I think mamas that experience stillbirth or child loss, toddler years or infant loss like that, you have a little more to hold on to because you had the opportunity to see your baby or hold your baby, and like little mementos and things like that. But for mamas and families that have experienced baby loss uh, early in like the first trimester, and you feel like you don't have anything to remind you of your baby other than the fact that you have like a positive pregnancy test, and sometimes you lose the child before you even got the opportunity to share with other people that you're pregnant, and so you feel like all of your joy has been completely robbed. I think that's why our miscarriage memorials are so important to me, because it gives moms the opportunity to have something actually tangible that reminds them of their baby, whether they name their baby or not. They can display it in their home, and it just is hopefully something that brings them a little hope and a little joy at the same time, like knowing that's one way they can honor their baby.
Yeah, and I think it's hard as well. Like you said, there isn't anything tangible. There's nothing there. So you like, well, am I, is it normal? Can I grieve this? Can I feel this? Is that okay for me to do? Because it's not like I gave birth to anything. Like I didn't give birth to a baby. Like for my first loss, it was a sack. So there was just a sack thing. I took a picture of it
Yeah.
because
Yeah, good for you. That's important. It, it's so healing. I feel like if we look to other people to validate our grief, we'll be looking forever, because really the way that you feel about losing a baby is just so different across the board, like I've seen some moms that have birthed their baby at home in their bathroom, and their baby's fitting in the palms of their hands, and they don't share those photos ever, like ever. And some moms do, but for you to be able to have that, those are like sacred photos, for moms.
Doesn't look very sacred. It's
I, you know what I mean, though.
Yes.
You know what I mean, because then when you lose a baby, you think, especially if you lose a child early in the first trimester, you think, well, am I still a mom?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think taking any picture of like, even if it just fits in the palm of your hand like that, for me, that's just, you have to, because that's all you're going to have. I mean, I took a picture
Yeah.
of the egg because I was like, well, I have nothing else to take a photo of. And,
Yeah.
I just I feel so weird just like chucking it out, or like, because
Yeah.
that's all I have of my baby. I was like, I don't, like, what do I do? I don't know. And I think that's the thing, like a lot of women don't know what to do. And yeah, taking a picture is probably the best thing and the only thing you can do to kind of keep that moment. Not that you want to keep the moment of loss, but that, that's my
Sure.
baby, that's my something. But yeah,
Right.
there was something just really gross about the sack thing. But hey, I took a picture of it, so if you want to do that, people should do that. If you want to take a picture of your sack, take a picture of the sack. But
Yeah. I feel like you only have like one opportunity when you're going through loss physically, like actually experiencing a miscarriage or experiencing stillbirth. Um, you only have one opportunity. So you can't, rewind the clock and go back and say, I wish I could have, so I always say, take them all. Like, take as many pictures, take as many videos. Like, if you don't want them later, that's your choice. But being right in the thick of grief, literally having a child, your mind just mentally isn't there. And even after, I mean, it's been next month will be 2 months that we lost Noah, and mentally, my mind isn't where it was before losing Noah. I can tell you that. But I wish I could go back and take immensely more pictures and videos, and it's like all the things I wish I would have done if I would have known what I know now. And so I always say, take it all. You don't even have to share it with anybody. You don't even have to look at it right now, but one day you might want to.
yeah, so true.
Yeah.
How did you feel after you had your rainbow? Because we have quite a few women at the moment who are pregnant who are in this event. So, how did that kind of go after you had?
Oh, goodness. That's a loaded question. After we had Eden, she's our rainbow baby. She's our only girl. Um, we we were, gosh, that's just not a hard question. That's a hard question. Um, we were overjoyed. We were overjoyed with her birth, and we're really grateful that she came out healthy and screaming and breathing. That was something we had prayed for. Like, Lord, I just want her to come out breathing and screaming, so I know she's okay. But um, it's difficult. She came out looking very similar to Noah, and that threw me for a loop as soon as I saw her. Um, just knowing the similarities were pretty uncanny. But even now, I mean, she's still pretty young. She's almost 3 months old, and getting up and nursing her in the middle of the night, and those times where it's really intimate at night with just her and I, it's difficult still. For me, I think just being alone with my thoughts and just her, and the resemblance of siblings is challenging. And it also, I think, hitting all the milestones that we never got to experience with Noah is hard too, and being curious as to what his personality would have been like. Would it be similar to hers? And all the things, it's like when you grieve your child, you grieve them forever. You don't just grieve them in the beginning and people think it goes away. I grieve the relationship that Noah would be having with Eden, that my husband would be having with him. Just grief is hard. Grief is still hard, and some days it catches me completely off guard. You know, his second birthday is approaching, and I think of the things that we'll do as a family, and having Eden here, it's such a blessing. Like, it's without a doubt, like, I can't put into words what a blessing she is. Like, truly, she completes our family, but it doesn't it doesn't erase the pain that I feel for Noah. You know, I mean, we took some newborn photos, family photos after she was born, and I look at them and I see the spot where Noah should be, and it just stinks that on earth our family will never be complete, but it gives me still hope, that we can find joy again here, and just being able to experience that joy here.
I think experiencing loss and that sort of sadness and darkness, I think that makes the joy and the light brighter.
Mm. Yeah, I agree.
And I think, I'm not saying it's a good thing to lose, because it's not, but it definitely strengthens in a way that I don't think any other experience can strengthen you and give you that perspective of blessing and gratitude and joy.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand what joy was until I lost my two, and then I looked at my kids.
Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, I believe I didn't feel or see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took loss.
Yeah. I resonate with that for sure. I think losing anyone, but especially losing a child, you realize how sacred life is, you know. At least for me, that's what I did. And so you look at parenting differently, you look at just mothering differently, the journey of motherhood. It all looks differently because you're seeing it through a lens of pain. And at least for me, I would sometimes even feel convicted about how I was disciplining my living children, you know, by being too harsh on him, like Noah's not here, and or just like trying to like overgive in a way. Like, Noah's not here, so I'll get you extra X, Y, and Z, like for the holidays or things like that. Um, because I felt like it was helping me, but I'm not really quite sure if it did. It's probably just a mental thing.
Yeah, we felt the same way. And it is like, it's you think you can sort of make up for it, and it is kind of like that, like make up for the loss, make up for that lost time that you won't have with that other child, and you can't make up for it, you can't make it better.
No.
It is what it is. It's hard and it sucks. It just sucks.
Yeah.
There's no real making it better. It's just moving through time and cherishing what you have and being grateful and feeling those blessings when they come, because you can't get what you lost back, which sucks.
Yeah, it does. I think for me, it really changed my perspective of how I live just every day, knowing that the sanctity of life and that tomorrow isn't promised. And just like you had said, it's easy to get in a place where we just feel overwhelmed by grief and fall into depression. And having Roman, our living son, here as I was trying to navigate all these feelings of losing our second son, I couldn't just stay in the bed and be depressed. And I knew I had to get up and get out of the funk that I was in, because it wasn't unfair to him, or it wasn't fair to him, but also like the time it wasn't promised. Like I knew that every day was a gift, and like I don't know, it makes you look at your living children differently too, because now I'm like, I don't want anything to happen to Roman, or it just makes you parent so differently. And then also knowing that you will still experience death again, whether it's in the form of like a friend or a parent or someone else. And so maybe not particularly another child, but learning that the Lord can help sustain you through a season of death in a dark place. Death is inevitable, especially as we get older in age, like you will see more of it. And so um kind of coming accustomed in a way, not hardened by it, and not, what am I trying to say? It's like it's inevitable, and time kind of reveals it. And so having the Lord sustain you through it um is helpful.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Because
It's
we can't escape it.
yeah, you can't escape God. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And you can't escape what you're going through. You have to step
But
through and keep moving. You can't just stand still, which I found as well, because I have 3 kids, and when I had the losses, I fell into a pit. And my husband, he said to me, you've got to come back now. Like, the kids need you. You need to be okay
yeah.
enough. I know you're grieving, but you've got to be okay now. And it went on for about 2 months, because
Yeah.
that's how long it took for things to pass my system.
Wow.
Yeah, because I did it naturally. But that 2 months were so
I'm
hard,
sure.
so hard.
I'm sure.
I didn't feel grateful as much, and I didn't feel anything as much, until after, because that moment I was just buried.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that the Lord knows those feelings, and I think it's okay to feel those feelings. I really do. I think it's where we get stuck and kind of fall victim to our situations is where it becomes dangerous, and where we allow it to just take over everything. Because I don't think that's what the Lord wills for you, is to be in this place where you've shut everything out and you've isolated yourself. And um I think that kind of sets you up for more of an attack from the enemy, of just being isolated and alone and really having no hope, and falling into this place of deep, deep depression. Because I think there's really healthy ways to grieve, and then there's very unhealthy ways to grieve. And if you're surrounding yourself with a lot of people who aren't trying to grieve themselves healthily, then you're going to kind of fall on the same type of pattern that they are. Um, it's important who you surround yourself with during these times of losing a child. It's very, very important.
And I think as well, if someone gives you that wake up call of, you need to start moving now, I think, try and listen to it. Unless obviously if you need a little bit more time, take that time, but try and listen as much as you can, because that could be God's message coming to you through someone else, because you can't hear, because you're too in it.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, those
Yeah.
people are just trying to love you as well. And I think just remembering that, because there was a little bit of anger, but then I remember saying to him, I know I need to. And I think, sometimes we know, and sometimes we don't. And I think we just have to hold on to the realization that this person loves you, and when they say to you, you need to be okay now, they're not saying it because they're trying to be mean and trying to validate what you're going through. They just love you and want you to be okay, and you're not okay.
Yeah, especially your spouse. I think that relationship is really, really vital going through losing a child, because they are too, and you're both trying to experience um, grief on different levels and at different times, and grief has no parallels. Everybody just experiences it at different times. And if for my husband and I'd have a good day and he'd have a bad day, and it was like a teeter totters, like one of those little kid things. Yeah, seesaw, that's it. Seesaw. Yeah. So it's like somebody had a good day, somebody had a bad day, and just it shows no mercy there.
Yeah, it sounds like you had a very different experience from the first loss to the second.
Yeah.
What were the differences? Like how
Yeah.
did it affect you differently?
So our first loss we experienced at 9 weeks, and we had been trying for a child for goodness years, and so that hit me pretty hard, just in belief that the Lord was going to bless us with a family, and then He did. And then when we went in for the ultrasound, there wasn't a heartbeat, and so that was really rough. Partially, like you said, because that was our first baby, and not knowing what to experience in terms of actually physically losing that child. Um, that was rough. I'd heard a lot of moms that have had miscarriage before, and I knew that it was common, but I guess you always think it won't happen to you until it does, and you don't know how to feel until it does happen to you. And then a few months later after that, we did get pregnant with our first son, our first living son. And after he was born, we quickly got pregnant again, not intentionally. And we didn't believe that we were going to be able to get pregnant that quickly because we had tried for so long for our first baby. And so when we got pregnant with Noah, we had a normal pregnancy. Everything was healthy. And then at 35 weeks, his heart stopped. And so I think that was much different for me than our early baby loss at 9 weeks, just because with a miscarriage, not actually seeing baby and holding baby, whereas with Noah, I went through the exact same birthing process that I did with our first son. And I got the opportunity to feel Noah being active in my womb. And I felt this closeness with him already because, we were so far along in pregnancy. And then, him being born and seeing him and the resemblance that he had to our first son. So that was much different for me. And I think, truthfully, it should be different. The feelings should be a little different just because I don't know. I mean, maybe there are some parallels in the feelings, but actually seeing your baby, it feels like it was a harder blow for me than losing our baby at 9 weeks.
Sounds
Both
yeah, sorry, both were.
both were terrible, but like actually having to like have Noah, hold him, spend hours with him, and then give him over to the nurse and leave with his body being there. Unnatural, just like completely unnatural.
Yeah.
So
It sounds like you went through a really quick season with the first loss, because it was loss, pregnant again, having the baby, and then another Noah. So
Yeah.
you really have time. Like doesn't sound like there was
No.
a period of time between each season. It just
No.
sounded like it was like, you know.
Yeah. It was honestly like our babies, if I count babies in heaven too, we would have 4-year-old, 3-year-old, 2-year-old, and a newborn. So yes, our seasons were very quick.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, I think about that if all of those babies were living and having them all here, like that'd be a chaotic house, but I'd love it. But be a little chaos.
Yeah.
But yeah, seasons. I think I actually have grieved that the first baby actually more now that I've lost Noah.
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
sounds odd.
Yeah, no, it's normal because if you like I said, your seasons were so quick, you probably didn't even get a chance to grieve that first loss. You were just like, oh, I'm pregnant. Okay, I'm pregnant again. I'm gonna, I've got to do this now. And so you were thrown into the throes of being pregnant again, obviously the anxiety and all that of being pregnant after loss. So you had to deal with all that as well. But it was like quick because you went from, a loss to then pregnant, and then you were pregnant again. So then
Right.
that joy of, oh, I'm pregnant again. Oh my goodness, this is okay. We're being blessed again. And
Yes.
then obviously what happened with Noah. So then you'd have both losses hit you at once because the first loss you didn't actually get to fully recognize and feel because you were thrown into the next season. So
Yeah.
it's taken time to kind of deal with my losses, and they were very early. They were like 6-7 weeks. It took up until 14 weeks to pass the sac, but I knew it was gone at 6 weeks. So those, like, it took time to deal with that, like feel that. And even now, like I'm pregnant and I don't feel like I fully dealt with it. I feel like maybe I put myself into this too soon. I'm so grateful, and obviously I feel blessed to be this far and all that, but there's a lot of emotions for sure. So I think, yeah, you just didn't get that time in that first loss, and it makes sense that you'd feel it now because you then had to go through the loss of Noah, and then that always reminds us of any other loss that we've had.
All right. Yeah. It's so true.
How has it been experiencing the two losses together? Like how have you sort of gone with that, especially with a newborn? I know you said in the quieter moments it can be quite hard.
Yeah. Well, honestly, it's just made me consider the first baby much more. I think you were spot on when you said losing Noah kind of like I didn't have time to grieve the first baby. And I was telling my husband, I said, should we name the first baby? Like we didn't, I mean, I know some people do, and we don't know if it's a boy or girl, or we just always say baby, but it piques kind of my curiosity of ways I can honor that child too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked my kids to name the baby because my husband didn't really feel comfortable, and I didn't know what to name the baby. So I asked my kids, and my son said, and this might make you cry, so I'm sorry, and I might cry. So he said, I think we should name the baby Joy. I'm gonna cry. And I said, why? And he said, because the baby would be joyful in heaven with Jesus.
Oh.
And I was like, That's so
Perfect name. Oh my goodness. That makes me teary. Oh,
I didn't cry when he
that's the
said it.
perfect name.
I didn't cry when he said it, but I cry so much now when I tell people.
That's the perfect name. That's the perfect name. And, you know, babies and children, I don't think they understand just like the innocence that comes out of their mouth when they're talking about babies that are in heaven. I had a friend who her daughter, she was sharing with her daughter that Noah had passed away, and her daughter's 8 years old, and she kept asking her, she said, Mom, like, has it been a day? Has it been 2 days? Like Noah had just passed away, and she was asking like every day, if it's been 3 days. And she's like, no, honey, it hasn't been 3 days. And she thought of the parallel between the Lord dying and rising again. And she thought Noah was gonna rise again. And I'm like, oh,
Oh,
she was waiting for the third day.
that's so cute.
Isn't that precious? So precious. So precious. It's
So
just
precious.
like so much innocent. Yes.
Waiting for a miracle that's not going to happen. Bless her.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Oh, it gives me chills. It gives me chills. Think about it.
No, kids are the best when it comes to those things. Like going through loss with kids, I think. You know, some people have said, you know, oh, I just feel so guilty. It feels so horrible. I wish they didn't have to go through this. But I've got to say, like, I think it's been a blessing to like have the kids and to experience it with them and to have their innocent things that they say and do. And you know, sometimes it's not been so great with the 4-year-old going, you know, about the baby, and I'm like, no, the baby's gone, you know. So that was hard. I constantly remind at one point. But yeah, it's beautiful that the way that they think and what they say, and it can bring a lot of comfort, because Joy definitely did. That's why this is called the Joy of Sunflowers.
Oh, I love that. I didn't realize that until you just said it. I love that.
Yeah, I had a dream of a little girl in a sunflower field before I found out I was pregnant with her, or with the baby.
Oh.
I don't know if it was a girl, but
Oh, that's beautiful.
we never got anything tested. It was just sack, and my husband disposed of it somewhere. I don't know where he disposed of it, but he put it somewhere. I don't know. I should probably ask him. Where did you put the sack, by the way? Maybe it's better I don't know.
You are so silly.
Yeah.
I love the meaning behind the name.
Yeah. No, mate, my sister and I we ended up sort of coming up with it together, and yeah, it was an emotional day that day. So
Yeah, sure.
yeah, and she made me some crocheted sunflowers, and like a crocheted sunflower hairband, and so I wear that in my hair most of the time, and I have it under my pillow. But yeah.
Oh, that's sweet.
Well, it's something tangible, isn't it? Because you don't have
Yes.
it. But yeah.
Yeah.
But I totally get what you mean about the first loss, and how, it can be very odd, like when it's that early on and you're like, do we name it? We don't know what it was, you know? But I think if you want to name the baby, you know, you could go for something that's kind of more like some kind of word that has meaning for you. Like Theodore said, joy, son, and the second loss we called patience, because we needed to have patience. And then this one, I was like, we're going to call the baby Grace until we know what it is. And then if it's a girl, we'll keep Grace. And if it's not, then we'll call it something else. And
love that.
The girl. So Grace is her name, because I said that's what we need to give ourselves in this time. So yeah, I think if you want to name the first baby, it doesn't matter that, you know, it's so far after, like you can still name the baby. So, you know,
Absolutely. Yes.
for it if you want to. But yeah, it might, I don't know how you come up with it. I just asked the kids. Maybe ask yours. They might come up with some pretty weird names though. So just heads
I was
up. Because
gonna say, I don't know if I want the baby to be called Poop.
yeah, my daughter came up with some weird ones. She was just like, love. And I'm like, okay, well, we
Yeah.
can love the baby. Okay. You know. But yeah, she said a few things. I think she said self-control. And I was like, that's a fruit of the spirit. Okay. We thought that's what we were naming because my oldest said Joy.
Right.
I was like,
Right.
no.
That's sweet though.
But it's beautiful. It's cute, you know. So yeah, but I don't know. It could be a fun exercise. Get some.
I'll let you know how that one turns out.
But thank you so much for joining me, and I'm sorry for the emotional bit.
No, never. Don't ever apologize for that. It's so important, and healthy just to embrace those feelings, and you never know when they're gonna come. So
Yeah, and hey, like I'm sure there's some not very dry eyes out there now because that was emotional. So,
hey, that's okay. I
but
wanted to tell you too. I know, I have no tissues here either. I was like, I kind of set myself up for disaster there.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, you
I
can't
would,
join this event without tissues. It's you need tissues on call right there, you know, in case
right?
the waterworks happen.
Yes. And I wanted to tell you before we jump off here, I would love to make two memorial prints for Joy and Patience if you'd like.
Oh,
We do, yeah, I'd love to do that for you. Um, which you've probably seen some of our stuff. I actually have one right here. Just started offering, they're smaller, 8x10, but they're beautiful and they all come with little floral backgrounds. Um, so basically you would just, and I can get it after the call, just I'll send you a little chat on Instagram for so we can exchange information. But essentially just baby's name, date that's special to you, and then we will put some scripture on there for you, and then you can pick out any of our floral backgrounds, and then you can at least have those like as two other little tangible pieces to display in your home of baby.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean the two
Yeah.
important dates are going to be weird because when I actually birthed the egg, it was the 20th of June, and that's when I'm due for this one.
Goodness. Oh,
And I feel like that's by design. And
oh my goodness. Yes.
I do wonder if I do give birth on 20th, I don't know. There's like part of me that's like maybe God sent her back. I don't know.
Mhm.
But yeah, a print would
Oh,
be lovely. Um
yeah.
I don't know what dates I'll get on there. Maybe the due dates, because then I won't have like a weird 20th but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll check
Yeah.
I'll
And
about it.
yeah, and if you would rather leave them off, we can do that too. But well, we'll get all that after this. You, I know you have a lot on your plate with just getting all these videos.
Oh
So
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
do that and you're ready.
Yeah, yeah. We're like at 26 now, interviews done,
Wow.
and we've got another, I don't know, 20 or so to do before we're sort of moving to other things. And yeah, but it's been
Wow.
quite good and
That's
it's
awesome.
therapeutic. That's how I'm seeing it.
Yes,
Kind of like a therapy.
absolutely.
And getting
Yes.
emotional.
Yes. Well, I'm proud of you. So keep on doing it, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you for everything you do as well. Like that validation is really, really important. And I think, yeah, having something tangible like after an early miscarriage is really nice, because yeah, you just don't have anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish I could give you a big hug.
It's all right, I'll get one from my husband. He'll be like,
Okay.
"You're crying again." It's just so often now. I'm like, yeah, but I'm 22 weeks pregnant. I'm emotional.
Right.
But thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Okay, we'll talk soon. Bye.
See you. Bye.
Please note that all speakers, including experts and professionals, express information, views, and opinions that should not be used to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any medical conditions. If you have a medical issue, please consult a qualified professional. Speakers voice their own views, opinions, and conclusions, and they may not reflect the views, opinions, and conclusions of other speakers. Ella Rose, The Joy of Sunflowers, and its sponsors may not endorse all or any of the views, opinions, or conclusions expressed.